Well, hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. Welcome to It's Time for More Injury Funding, the podcast for all who want to learn about legal funding and its significance in the personal injury, product liability, medical malpractice, and many other types of law practice domains. I'm your host, Laura, founder and CEO of More Injury Funding, the legal funding counselors with passion for law, medicine, legal funding, and heart for all suffering individuals. More Injury Funding is a sponsor, member, associate, or business partner of this podcast, Academy of Truck Accident Attorneys, Sandy Springs Bar Association, Georgia Association of Paralegals, Atlanta Legal Society, State Bar of Georgia, and Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. In today's episode, we have a very special guest, Trey Harrell. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Trey Harrell.
Harrell. Here we go. Trey
Yeah.
Harrell, founder and managing partner of the Trey Harrell Law Office LLC. Trey and his team are based in Charleston, South Carolina. Prior to forming his law practice, attorney Trey serves as a federal prosecutor with the high intensity drug trafficking areas, which is HIDTA task force. A true family man, Trey's practice current focus is dealing with helping individuals get their life back together following a car accident. As a father of two small children, Trey truly understands the necessity of making sure that you get back on your feet and able to do what is necessary for your family. Today, attorney Trey will discuss what red flags to watch for when choosing an insurance company. And finally, at the end of the episode, I'll have a fun pop-up question for Trey. So stay tuned in and welcome to program, Trey.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm a fan of the show, and I like listening to the podcast. I listen to it in my truck regularly. So thank you for actually letting me be on it. It's cool.
Absolutely. It's an honor here too. So what are some red flags to look for when choosing an insurance company, Trey?
That's a very good question, and I feel like I'm kind of in a unique place to break that down. My dad and my grandfather were both insurance agents when I was growing up, and my uncle was an insurance defense lawyer, and I sue insurance companies. So that should tell you enough right there that I've got a little unique experience with it. I think a red flag for an insurance company is the advertising that an insurance company does. What's so interesting about this process and that industry is how much insurance companies are willing to pay other than just paying the claim. For example, everybody all knows State Farm used to have Aaron Rodgers as a commentator, as a endorser.
I remember that.
Yeah, remember that? They were great commercials,
Mm-hmm.
but they were so good that they had to pay him $3 million a year for 12 years. So imagine how many claims they could have been paying in that time. Additionally, any insurance company that complains about personal injury lawyers or any other kind of lawyers out there is another real issue, because that means they're spending so much money trying to fight claims and whatnot. And we'll get into why that's a big red flag later on. But that's another massive red flag. So any insurance company that complains about other people, that's kind of a red flag. And so I think that's just kind of a red flag in general. You know what I mean? In life, if all someone ever does is complain about other things and whatnot, you might want to just, take a second look.
Okay. And could you share some maybe personal experiences where you ignored red flags and regretted it later?
Probably not as good as my wife could. There's probably plenty of red flags when we were dating. But no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. In life, you see so many red flags from it's when you take that first job, or you take a job and you're interviewing and something doesn't feel right. And so you get in with a job and you wished you hadn't, or when you're in school and you're taking a class and there's a red flag about how you should and shouldn't hang out with, but you're still hanging out with those people and they cause you to get in a little bit of trouble. Just those in life. I mean, we are, as a species and as human beings, have good instincts. And so you just need to lean onto those instincts. And the same is true if you've got a bad instinct for an insurance company, or something doesn't rubs you the wrong way. That's kind of, you should listen to that and go with your gut and do what you think you ought to do.
Follow the gut. Love it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how can a lack of transparency from an insurance company be potential red flag or warning sign?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. The lack of transparency from an insurance company is really shown by the way they do their advertising. And why is it such a red flag? Because you've got to go with them and work with them to try to get your life back in order if it's your insurance company.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they consistently talk about being a good neighbor or you're in good hands or something like that, they're covering up for something, or they may be covering up for something or showing something that they want you to see, where don't look over here at our issue of getting our clients sued because we're not settling claims or anything like that. Look over here at Brad Paisley or Patrick Mahomes. Don't look at that. And so that lack of transparency is really talking about what they do and how they handle things. And this isn't all insurance companies across the board, but we all know the ones I'm talking about. And looking at that and making sure that's what they need to talk about, not these frou-frou happy commercials. They need to explain what they actually do for folks and where they come from in doing this, instead of just trying to make everything look happy and great.
Absolutely. Now, in our minds as consumers and end product receivers, we often believe and are convinced that insurance companies are well off and financially stable, but reality could be far from that. What are some warning signs that an insurance company might not be financially stable?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think, or that's a very good question. I think that what we're seeing right now in the state of Florida with property insurance companies having all the issues they're having and starting to pull out of different regions is kind of that red flag. If you've heard of an insurance company leaving a certain market, that should let you know. I'm in Charleston on the coast, and we're having a lot of home insurance companies or property insurance companies pull away from the coast for whatever reason. They're not writing houses within a certain mile radius of the beaches of the coast in Charleston. And so because of that, that's kind of got to let you think maybe there's some insolvency issues, or maybe there's something going on that they're dropping these customers that have been longtime customers of that particular insurance company, just on a whim, because they're afraid they're not going to be able to pay the claims if a hurricane happens or if something else occurs. And so that's kind of a red flag that we need to be watching and paying attention to, because the worst thing in the world would be if you're hurt in an accident and you can't get the compensation you need. It kind of messes up the whole ecosystem from going to you, because you've got to make sure that the insurance company can pay the folks you lend money to, so that you can earn money, so that you can go lend it to help more people. Totally. And so if an insurance company is showing signs of insolvency, that could mess up a whole ecosystem that is very necessary for folks to get better.
It's terrible. So what do you do? Do you know anybody personally who had home insurance on the coast and
I
lost?
do. Yeah, so, my parents had to go through that. I'm not blessed enough to live that close to the coast, but luckily my folks are, and they've had issues with it. But there are other companies you can move to, and as long as you're paying attention to what's going on in the world and what's going on moving forward, you can always kind of see that stuff coming. As long as you don't have your head in the sand, you can see that stuff coming. So as that starts to happen, you can move it around. Additionally, if you're with a good insurance broker, not just a regular company that you see on TV, if you're with an insurance broker, they're paying attention to that and watching that. And as a company starts to show signs of that, or starts to moving out of a state, they can easily maneuver you around to another company so that you're still covered.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Now, sales, as we all know, could be, nice or positive or negative. But now, how can aggressive sales tactics be a red flag when choosing an insurance company?
Oh, certainly. If the sales tactics are not tactics that are talking about the value of the product or the value that they're bringing to the table, that can really show something. And I can tell you, from an interesting thing, before I went to law school, I was a licensed insurance agent because of my family, and very active in that. And I can remember it wasn't necessarily selling and the hard sales. You were supposed to really talk about the company when you were there, and the value that adding a life insurance policy can add on to something, or bundling it can do it. I think that's kind of a really important piece. We can't decide what we're going to go with, particularly with something like insurance, where it's so crucial for your family's future based off of a funny commercial or something else along those lines. And so, or fall for an aggressive sales tactic. It's if you fall for an aggressive sales tactic, or you've got a salesman that just moves out of the way after they've sold you the policy, that's another red flag, because is the salesperson really backing up behind their word, or are they just getting the sale, getting their commission and moving on? So it's really things that you have to pay attention to. And I don't think it's a scenario where individuals can sit back on it and just rely on what they see on TV or whatnot. Individuals have to take the time to really research it and pay attention to what they're doing while they're going forward, because a lot of it's not just the bad big corporation that's trying to oversell you. Some of the stuff you've got to do. So folks who are listening to this podcast looking for red flags and trying to look into it are doing the kind of research they need to do. And that's kind of what's very important thing. Same with my industry. Don't just pick the personal injury lawyer because they've got a great commercial. Pick the person who has consistent 5-star reviews like we do. Pick the person who has truth and is around and involved in the community. Same with your insurance agent. Pick people who are involved in the community, not just somebody who's in there just to make a buck.
That totally makes sense. Now, can you explain why a lack of customer service can be a major alert?
Yeah, definitely. I think that kind of goes with any industry, not just insurance. I don't want to just badmouth insurance companies the whole time. I think in anything, do you really want to go to a restaurant that has horrible service? There's a reason why Chick-fil-A is as popular as it is. They're so focused on customer service that you just want to go back and you don't mind paying that extra dollar or extra change for your sandwich, because you know it's going to be prepared right. You know you're going to be taken care of. And if there's a problem, you can go back to them and say, hey, I got this problem, and they're going to make it right. I think that's the same with any industry, particularly insurance as well, particularly in an industry where when there's a problem, when something happens and it's catastrophic, you need to be able to go back to them and know they're going to make it right. And so that's why customer service is so important. If your insurance agent isn't really calling you back when you're trying to do it, if the quote is kind of the quote they're trying to give you isn't really a solid quote, that all tells you those are all red flags that you should be paying attention to.
Now, how can the fine print in an insurance policy reveal potential alerts or red flags?
If they're really throwing a lot of disclaimers in there, now not the disclaimers like you have to use or that I have to use, where they're pretty basic. I always say when I talk about results that I've gotten people, my great previous results don't guarantee future outcomes. Just like you say, the things you say in your disclaimers, those have to be put in. But if you're getting more than just a basic disclaimer, if you're getting a very lengthy reasons why they're not going to have to owe you money, or they're not going to have to, that should be a very big red flag. Same with anybody who has really lengthy, long disclaimers that aren't your typical run-of-the-mill disclaimers, because they're trying to set it up so they can get out of something later.
Interesting. So how long an average or good disclaimer should be? 1 page, half a page, paragraph? What would be your personal suggestion?
Definitely. I think it depends on the company. And I think it's, we live in such a world where everybody wants everything to be cookie cutter, right? And I think everything is different. I think again, like we talked about earlier in the show, trust your gut. Go with your gut. If you read this disclaimer and it rubs you the wrong way, don't go with that insurance company. Don't go with that lawyer. Don't go with that fast food chain. If you're reading something that kind of turns you off or makes you say, that doesn't smell right, then make the move. Maybe don't go with them. Look at somebody else. That's the beauty of the competition we have in this country.
I love it. Absolutely. And follow your gut, just like you said.
Follow your gut. Yeah.
What are some clues, Trey, to watch out for when it comes to claim settlement process?
Oh, this one I can hit on. Okay. I know this. We deal with this one regularly now, mind you, what I may say, we just talked about disclaimers, so forgive me, but I'm licensed in South Carolina, not in Georgia. I'm only licensed in South Carolina. So, talk to a lawyer in your home state if you have any questions. But with that being said, I think that in the claims process, anytime they're trying to push you off, anytime they're saying we're still investigating, particularly if it's very clear, if it's a rear end or somebody ran a stoplight and they're not just immediately accepting liability, that's a red flag, and you probably should at least talk to a lawyer sooner rather than later. Any kind of, we don't want you to go talk to somebody or pushing you off, or anytime they badmouth a lawyer, that's a big disclaimer. A big red flag, excuse me. Anytime they also, now this is the other end of the coin, too quick a settlement. We have clients regularly that come to us that initially were offered $1,000 or $2,500 and plus X in your medical bills. But the problem with that is the insurance company determines which medical bills are related, and they're going to try to pay less on those medical bills. And those are clients that are smart enough to come in the beginning. Another problem we get is people who take that deal, who take that quick $1,000 and then turn around and the insurance company isn't paying the medical bills that they need. And so they need a lawyer, but it's too late. They've already signed a deal and they're stuck. Another big red flag in the claims process is when they try to get you to settle it under your insurance. It's not necessarily your insurance's problem. It's the person that hits you. Now, if you have an underinsured coverage or an excess coverage, then yes, then it may be your issue and look to your coverage. But first, look to the person that hit you. Look to the person that caused the problems, insurance, not your insurance. So those are kind of just a brief overview of some red flags that you really got to pay attention to.
I love it. Can you discuss some problems related to the pricing and premiums of an insurance company? Or policy, rather, insurance policy?
Oh, yeah. I think that, the problem is with the pricing that goes into it is like we were hitting on at the beginning of the show. An insurance company or numerous insurance companies have paid various celebrities or various individuals throughout the time a bunch of money. And so when you're getting into this pricing, you really need to shop around, because if you're paying for one of those big companies that advertises on TV, you're paying for that celebrity. And so always look to some of these independent agents where they can shop around and get you the best rate, because in the pricing, in particular in South Carolina, it's set by the Department of Insurance about where they can rate or if they can approve it. And okay, I'm not familiar with the way it is done in Georgia, but it's set by that and they have to get approval. So your Department of Insurance is going to protect to make sure the company seems solvent and appears solvent, but you're also not going to be paying for that celebrity or for what other, sponsoring the Chiefs Stadium or wherever else they're going to, or whatever else they're going to sponsor. So when you're looking at your pricing and your policy, make sure you shop that policy around, because I'm sure they've got an actuary that's ran all the risk, but different insurance companies have different actuaries. And so you want to go make sure you're getting the best rate possible. And keep in mind that paying somebody on TV or a company that has to pay a bunch of celebrity endorsements is going to have to charge you more money, or going to have to pay you less on your claim so they can. Because let's not forget, an insurance company is not beholden to you, the policyholder. They're beholden to their shareholders, right? It's a corporation. They have a fiduciary duty to shareholders, or in most cases, some of them are mutual and it's different. But in a lot of cases, they have a fiduciary duty to shareholders. So always be aware of that.
Very interesting. Now, how can a company's reputation or lack of it serve as a warning sign when choosing an insurance provider?
I think that's kind of in life. It's kind of, think back to when you were in high school or college and you were thinking about going out on a date with somebody. You made sure they had a good reputation. You didn't want to go out with the person with a bad reputation. I think that's true in life. I think that anything that you want to do, anybody you want to get involved with in any kind of capacity, whether it's business, whether it's a friendship, whether it's anything, you want to make sure they have a good reputation. And so doing your research and looking into the representation, looking into the reputation is very, very important to make sure that you pick the right group. And again, trust your gut.
Exactly. Now, Trey, can you think of any warning signs to look out for in terms of policy exclusions and limitations?
Yeah, we're very fortunate in South Carolina that when our state Supreme Court has a history of knocking down policy exclusions that violate public policy and that cause a lot of problems. But but just in general, again, same with the disclaimer language we talked about. Read through it. If it doesn't feel right, if something just doesn't seem right, either talk to a lawyer or go look for another company and compare the two policies. If company A, B, and C have this disclaimer, but company D doesn't, that might tell you that maybe this disclaimer shouldn't be in, maybe this disclaimer should be in there. If company A has a disclaimer, but B, C, and D don't, well, then they're probably trying to pull a fast one on you. So you really need to pay attention and shop around and look for what you look into everything and make sure that you're aware of the situation, because a lot of this responsibility isn't just on the insurance company or the government, it's on yourself. And so you need to make sure you pay attention to what's going on so you don't get taken advantage of.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. I always thought that all insurance companies have physical offices, but that appears not to be always the case. Exactly. Now, can the absence of a physical office be a red flag when choosing an insurance company?
See, I don't think so, personally, because I'm a fan of folks who go to insurance brokers, not necessarily to the name brand companies that you know of, with the local insurance agents and local insurance companies, because that one company might not have a physical location, but they've got that local representation, that local agent that you get to know. And so in essence, they do have a physical entity in that scenario. A lot of these independent insurance agents sell these companies. For example, the General that we all see the commercials that show Shaquille O'Neal is a partner in, they don't have a lot of brick and mortar. They go through local insurance brokers, at least in South Carolina, or at least in the Charleston area that I'm aware of. And you have to deal with that. So they have to keep their rates down and have good policy that protects their individual, because the insurance broker is not going to recommend that to the individual. So I don't think the lack of a physical office is a red flag. And also look at the way we are right now in society. Post-COVID, we are in a world where you don't go into the office. I mean, for example, you and I are talking via Zoom right now and having a great time. We're not physically sitting next to each other, but we're still giving out great tidbits to people to help. We don't need to be sitting next to each other to do it. Technology's allowed us to do that. So just like in anything, if the technology is there, but pay attention. If that insurance company doesn't have independent agents selling for them, or they don't have a brick and mortar store or low physical location, then maybe that should be a red flag. So again, you just got to pay attention and trust your gut.
I love it. Now, how can a company's history of lawsuits or regulatory action serve as a red flag or a warning sign?
The history of lawsuits, I think, is something that you really do need to pay attention to when you're looking into this, because with the companies that we're dealing with, a lot of these big insurance companies, they will fight us tooth and nail on trying to get a claim resolved. And quick, brief example, we're dealing with a case with a young mother with her child who was rear-ended by a tow truck. And the tow truck driver was given a ticket for distracted driving. This lady is not greedy, not trying to give it. She's just trying to get her medical bills paid for. The insurance company only offered us half of the medical bills and then sent us an email that said, we will not pay more than that unless we're told to by a jury. So essentially, we now have to go sue this company, the tow truck driver's company, have to sue the tow truck driver. So now there's litigation against that company and against them. And what's so weird about this is this adjuster, we're in South Carolina, that adjuster's out in California. The moment it was handed to a South Carolina lawyer, the conversation completely changed and we were able to resolve it. But the only way we were able to get it resolved, and they paid more than medical bills, let me just tell you that. The only way we were to get it resolved was by filing that lawsuit. So now, for the rest of that company's life, for the rest of that tow truck driver's life, they've got a lawsuit that's following them around. And let's also think, there are a lot of folks that when you have to apply for a job, they ask you, have you ever been involved in a lawsuit? Have you ever done this in the past 7 years? And you got to check yes or no. So that particular piece of information is very, very crucial. And I can tell you, the more, based on my experience, the more money an insurance company spends on advertising with celebrities and whatnot, the more likely we are to have to file a lawsuit to go try to get that claim resolved, with the exception of the general. Fun fact. And that's only because I think Shaquille O'Neal, who's the celebrity for them, owns part of the company. He's not a paid celebrity.
Okay.
So,
I thought he did his research there.
yeah. Well, I'm a lawyer. I got to do my research, right? So,
yeah.
So I think that's something that you really do need to pay attention to, because they're going to get you sued if they don't resolve the claim, because I have no choice. If you're not going to pay my client fair for it, and I'm not talking pay my client $1 million when she has $100 in bills. I'm talking about a little more than medicals to pay her for her pain and suffering and the medical bills. And if these companies are offering you less than the medical bills, there's no way that case is going to get settled without litigation. So they're causing you to get sued. And so I think that is a big red flag. I think that is just something you really need to pay attention to. And if a company has a history of getting their customers sued, you want to stay away from that company.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, I would list out those companies, but I don't want to put us at any kind of liability risk.
Totally. Well,
welcome.
This was such a great time spent with you today, Trey. I feel like I'm so much more equipped when choosing my next right insurance company for me. Now, please tell me, how do you overall help your clients achieve results that they deserve? Do you do anything differently from any other attorneys in your area, in your state, or in any other state, in your own unique Trey Harrell way?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I like to think that all lawyers in South Carolina take an oath that they're going to work hard and zealously advocate for their client. And so I don't really want to speak to how we're different, because I don't want to badmouth anybody in my profession. But what I can say is, if you go Google our law firm, you're going to see consistent 5-star reviews. We're very blessed with that. And so because of that, we're kind of showing that we put the extra effort in for our client. Some of our best clients, who have been some of our best referral sources, are clients we unfortunately weren't able to get a ton of money for, but we cared for them and kept them informed, kept them handled, and made sure they understood what was going on with their case. And so that's a big part for us. Now, there were other clients who we were able to get a ton of money for, and we still kept them involved and walked them along. But I think that's something we preach very seriously here within my firm, is the culture of making sure the clients know that where they are with their case and what's going on, and also managing expectations. If I've got a client whose case isn't going to get them millions and millions of dollars, I'm going to tell them that in the beginning. And if they don't like it, they're more than welcome to go look for another attorney. I've got no problem with that. Just like people need to go look for other insurance agents. They got to trust their gut.
Absolutely.
And if you have a good gut, when you give us a call and talk to us, we want you to sign up and work with us. If you don't have a good gut feeling about us, well, there are other attorneys. So, it's kind of one of those things that you just have to make the best decision for you. And I'd like to think working with my office is the best decision for you, but you got to make that decision.
Absolutely. I love your transparency and your very unique way and approach to law, and helping in the way you help your clients in need. Now, if anyone gets injured, God forbid, and is looking for your office, how can they reach you, Trey?
The best way to get us is Trey Helps on any social media. We also can get us at attorneyharrell.com or treyhelps.com. I think that would be the best way. We've got phone numbers for either our office in Greenville or our office in Charleston. But if you go to our website, not only will you be able to see the great reviews that we get and the results we get for our clients, but you'll also be able to get in contact with us so we can get to helping you do whatever you need to do.
I love it. That's great. Thank you so much again for being my very special guest. It's time for more Injury Funding podcast. But before I let you go, as promised, I have one last fun pop-up question. You ready?
Now. Okay, let's go. Let's see what we got.
How would your parents describe what you do?
I would like to think that they would describe, my dad, the insurance agent, might get mad that I bash insurance companies all the time. But as any good Southern boy would say, I would like to think my mama would be ridiculously proud of me. I can tell you what they would say is that I married way out of my league. So I did that right for them. So I think that they would be proud of what we do and how we do it. And the fact that they don't get people coming up to them in the grocery store telling them, your son does a bad job. So that's what I think they'd be proud of.
I love it. Love it. Absolutely. That was again attorney Trey Harrell with the Trey Harrell Law Office LLC. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for watching and listening to our story today about how identify red flags when choosing an insurance company. For more tips and tricks on legal funding and personal injury related topics, follow me, like, and subscribe at More Injury Funding. And it's time for More Injury Funding podcast on Spotify, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube, Yelp, Google Business Profile, and my website at www.moreinjuryfunding.com. That's with 2 O's. I can't wait to see you and listen to you, my dear viewers and listeners, on my next upcoming episode. Tune in soon for our next guest. Until then, be well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.